What in the hell was that? I cannot deal with this. She was my baby girl. She was my everything. I loved her so much. My hope for salvation for this show was her. It was her. Okay. We're going to start the discussion. Hello. Welcome back to the channel of Doors No Theories. My name is Joe. I'm too invested in this goddamn show to even do my proper introduction on the channel. If you're new here, hi, welcome. I am completely demented, and that's what you're going to see. Demented me discussing this show that just broke my heart to pieces. Anyway, we're going to start talking about Day and Demerzel, then move on to Dusk, Day and Demerzel, then move on to Gail and the mule shenanigans. Oh my god. I know you guys have been telling me that this was going to happen, and I didn't want to believe it. And it happened. It happened. Okay, Day and Demerzel. I'm going to start by saying that I loved the way that they looked, and I love the fact that he walked into the room where Demerzel was, because that's her room, and he immediately looked in the mirror, and just the contrast of the fact that he looks so different from the Day we are used to seeing, and it kind of like is a visual aid, a visual representation to the fact that he is different. He is a different person. He has gone on a journey through loving Song and then going to search for her and all the shenanigans in the inheritance people, and when he delivered the skull to Demerzel like that, as if he was like a proud believer of her and whatever, I was a little bit shocked because I didn't realize this had happened inside Day. But yeah, I was really surprised by how quick in thought he was to make the same deduction about Demerzel's programming that Gail made. I was like, oh, interesting that he can have similar thought patterns to an intelligent. Now we know robot. I mean, do we know? Do we know for sure? I'll talk about it. But yeah, because he tells Demerzel, it's not a choice. It is not a choice. You're just teaching me, my girl, just teach me. It's not a choice yet. Chill. And I mean, what an interesting contrast between him and Dusk, because in the same episode, we see the two Cleons that supposedly come from the same DNA, using their intellect for completely different reasons. Where Dusk uses his intellect to destroy and to conquer, Day is using his intellect to rebuild, to repair. And I love those little details so much. And it's in the same episode. And it's in the same episode that Dusk says this deranged line at the end to justify his actions. I'll get to it. Of course, Day starts fixing the skull, and with what happens to Demerzel later, it's kind of funny that the prophecy from the inheritance people kind of in a way came true, because a robot truly came back to life to, save them, but it wasn't necessarily Demerzel. It was in a way, but the skull that in the end transmitted the signal to unite the species of robots was the skull that Day was repairing, the skull that has been in the possessions of the inheritance people this whole time. The irony. This is what I'm saying about the episode and about the show in itself, like in its entirety. The details, the subtext, the little, comparisons, contrasts, parallels are so beautiful. Like when you watch it a second, a third, a fourth time, you always catch new things. I love that stuff. And of course, Demerzel being wrong about the fact that she was the only surviving robot makes sense, because she was captive. She was captive, like, since the end of the war. So it makes sense that she wouldn't be aware of everything that is happening with the robots and with everyone fighting. It makes sense that if she was taken captive, she wouldn't be aware of the possibility of other robots surviving. But also, it could still be a different thing, and I will talk about it when I get to it. But anyway, it was heartbreaking from the beginning, because Day is repairing the little skull. Demerzel is about to combust from just joy, happiness, relief, whatever the hell she's feeling. And as Day is repairing the little thing, Demerzel has to leave. because she's still captive to this goddamn empire. And she's about to see the thing that she's wanted for so long, to connect with another person, another robot from her species. And she can't even stay to see it because her duties, her programming, her captivity to the goddamn empire calls her. I was just, because I couldn't wait. I was seeing it in her face, like, finally, this is gonna happen for my baby girl, finally. And, she's called away to deal with Dusk's evil shenanigans, and, well, Day stays behind and continues to do his little fixing. I'm assuming that he's watched Demerzel do this stuff before and has some understanding of how to do it. I mean, she didn't even tell him anything. He just went for it, and she said, yeah, it's like that. So, I mean, and it works in the end because we get there. And of course, we get to the chamber with the clones, and everything is a mesh of flesh. Oh my god, that rhymed. Everything is a mesh of flesh, and I feel like Demerzel was there for a while, like, trying to compute this in her mind, trying to compute everything that is happening, and then Day appears and it's like, oh, what's happening? And Demerzel delivers a good line. Too many things at once. Like, the writing of the show is pretty good. Like, I enjoyed very much. And then we hear a baby crying, and Demerzel follows the baby cries all the way up to the goddamn chamber, where the Ascension Chamber, right? That's what they call them. And, well, let's talk about Dusk and how we get here with Dusk, because that man, I haven't hated someone this much since fucking Joffrey. No, I feel like I have hated someone else this much since Joffrey, but I can't remember who he was. So now it's Dusk, the second runner-up that I hate so goddamn. Honestly, props to the actor. It's a good actor because I cannot stand this person right now. We actually start the episode with Dusk. And honestly, I feel like everyone could tell. Like, the signs were there. I've been talking about this for a couple reviews now, all the shenanigans, all the horrendous behavior from Dusk since kicking the little ferret. Like, I feel like we could tell. And, I mean, he said he was creating the weapon to give it to Dawn as an Ascension gift. Liar. A liar. A liar. From the beginning, liar. The fact that he hid it from Demerzel should have been the biggest clue. Liar. And, I mean, we were expecting this, but even though we were expecting something like this, I said in my previous review, no way in hell Dusk is not going to want to stay on the throne. Even though we were expecting something like this, I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting this. And maybe I should have, because after destroying like billions and billions of people, I should have expected this, to be honest. But before anything else, I wanna once again talk about how beautiful all of these like scenes, all of these buildings are. Actually, the cinematography of this episode was really great. Like the shots of Day, the final shot of Dusk, that one shot of Beyta. It's probably gonna be my thumbnail. It was pretty great, but in this initial shot for the episode, we see, I think I don't know what they call it, the Royal Palace, where the Cleons live. And we see like the two big towers, and then a tower in the middle, and it's a tower that is going to explode. It's the tower of bodies that's going to explode, and it's right there in our face from the beginning. And then it like pans to a huge shot of a part of the palace with a veranda or balcony, whatever the hell that shit is called, and just Dusk, like a tiny man in the middle, like overlooking his reign, his kingdom. And immediately in my second watch, I got reminded of Game of Thrones because I was hating this man so much. And it reminded me of when, what's his name? I don't remember. When this guy said to Tyrion, a very small man can cast a very large shadow. And I mean, he's going to cast such a great brother darkness. Oh my god. Sorry, I'm not being very eloquent. I'm going to return to my senses. Dusk is preparing his ascension. He's referred to as brother darkness. I'm assuming that's what they call the Dusks before they ascend, and not what Dusk already asked people to call him. I'm assuming because I remember hearing this before. Am I delusional? Let me know. But we hear him being called Brother Darkness, and as soon as this man said, "Oh, am I am I old enough to walk by myself down the corridor? I knew. I knew he was up to something. As soon as he said that, I knew he was up to something. And honestly, I thought because he was going to get his nanites like removed, so I thought he was going to pull a stunt kind of like Day. Like he was going to go to the room, get his shit removed, and then just escape somewhere else. No, the man wants to rule. The man wants to rule. And of course, he goes to the little room with all the clones, and just the most psychotic thing was this man singing the little song about his brothers while he kills them. And I mean, those are people. Those are like people. And we see, that's the thing about Dusk. He clearly doesn't care about individual lives. And I mean, a lot of the people in this world, a lot of the leaders, the high-ranking people in this world don't care about individual lives. They look for the bigger picture, for the greater good and all this bullshit. And we see such a great scene in this episode when Dusk leaves the bodies on the floor and there's a brother Dawn, and we can see that his torso is practically gone, that his arm is kind of detached from the body, even though it's clearly connected somehow because he's moving his fingers. And I mean, these are people. These are people that just got woken up from to life for the first time, and their first experience in life, which they don't even understand what it is yet. They're computing the goddamn memories in the chip in their head, and the very first experience they have is like falling from the sky, dismembered, and like in pain, not even understanding what is happening to them. Everyone in the show just walks past them as if they are just mounds of meat, when like it's a person, even though it's a clone, even though it's like not fully realized, even though it has, it's still dealing with the memories or whatever. It's a person. Those are people. In fact, those are babies, a lot of them. I was not okay after that one scene. Maybe I was the only person who stuck with it, but I was not okay after that one scene. And I mean, it's part of like the theme of this grand show in this grand gigantic world is how far do individual lives matter? And like the message that we kind of get a lot of times from the show is that it depends on who you are and how useful you are and how important you are for the greater picture. Because if you put like side by side this discarded Dawn body next to Gail, Gail is an individual, but she's incredibly important for the big picture. So she's an incredibly important individual that is protected by many, many people. This Dawn is a mound of meat on the floor. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, am I the only person who thinks about philosophical shit when watching this show? This is why I love sci-fi, by the way. Like, I didn't fall in love with sci-fi as a kid because of the spaceships and the laser beams. I fell in love with sci-fi because of the greater philosophical questions about humanity and about the limits of humanity. And I feel like this show touches on it most of the time through subtext and through like, what is hidden in between the lines rather than through the big picture, through the images that they show. And I enjoy that. Like these little reflections and conversations that you can have with the image in front of you, or the image in front of you is kind of like propelling you to have, is one of my favorite parts of the show. Anyway, Dusk runs with the baby to the little ascension chamber and enter Demerzel. And Dusk says, "I'm not conciliating. I can tell you that much." And I just, And then he said, "I'm the monster you created." I wanted to punch him in the face. Number one, how very Taylor Swift of him. I love that song, by the way. Number two, no, you're not. First of all, you are the first Cleon that we've heard of that is capable of this capacity of evil, of psychopathy. Like none of the other Cleons have done something like this before. So obviously it's not because she raised you, Dusk. And also, in the same episode that we see Day literally running, like from the depths of Trantor, running into the palace and risking his life to deliver this goddamn skull that will literally free Demerzel. I mean, how demented do you have to be to blame your psychopathy on the person who did everything for you, or not sacrificed, was forced to sacrifice her life for you. And also, the person who put Demerzel in charge was a goddamn Cleon in the first place. So, how dare you, Dusk? Blame her for your psychopathy. Oh, poor me. I was born into a system that benefits me. Hence, I'm obviously the victim of everything in the world. She has to protect the baby. And I've been talking about this for a while. The captivity, the fact that she's stuck with that programming, that she didn't choose it, that she's been dreaming about freedom. The thing that she says today that, you know, if you compare love to freedom, there is no comparison because freedom wins always. And the whole, like, we've been discussing it the whole season. She had those meetings with the Illuminist priestess or however you call her. And like, she's been debating this with herself for such a long time. She's been dreaming about this for such a long time. We finally have a possibility. We finally have like a door opening and that Demerzel could connect with robots like her. She wouldn't have to make someone else like her because they are already out there. They already exist and you're like there for her. And still, she's forced by the captivity. She's forced by her programming to sacrifice herself in vain, because it's just her programming manipulated by an asshole, evil dictator to satisfy his own, because he can't kill her. He can't defeat her. So he uses her programming to defeat her. And they had that conversation. And I said, he was going to use it against her. They had that conversation in the previous episode where she was clearly like, you know, with too much in her head. She was clearly having to compute too much to obey her programming. And he knew she was like, overwhelmed with all of this bullshit that is happening with the impending ending of the empire, and he used it against her. He caused the ending of the empire and left only one single solution, only one single baby that could still continue the empire, knowing that she would have to sacrifice her. Evil. I was in pain watching that, and after a while, the fucking baby died and she was too weak to get up. But the Radiant survived. And given that we had that conversation before about the fact that the Radiant was made by Calais, Demerzel, and a third mother, which I wrongfully said it was Gail, but obviously it was Harry's wife. Is she there? Is a part of her in there in the Radiant? Like, can we still go to the Radiant and talk to baby girl Demerzel? Like, is that possible? Or was it only possible to talk to Calais because Calais is still alive somewhere else? Like, would it never be possible to use the Radiant to talk to Demerzel again? I hope she's not. I hope a part of her is inside the Radiant and we can get her back somehow. Like her consciousness. Get her consciousness back and create a body for her. I cannot believe Demerzel is dead. Like, and in the way that she died, evil. Evil! So evil. And I mean, after this, Dusk goes completely, like, overtly mental. Demented. Dusk was demented to a level that I couldn't be demented enough to explain. And I obviously love this show very much, so. But, and like, because when they ran after him, I was hoping, oh, take him out. Kill him. But Dusk knew all along that they didn't have his fucking nanites. And when he killed Day, I was just like, oh my god, they had such a great journey. Like, he survived all that bullshit and he came back for her. And, he's sticking out another character that I like. I hate this man. And he's going to be present for the next season. He's going to be the big antagonist. I'm like, I can't. The fact that he said that he was like Seldon's big, I hope he's not. I hope it's another plot twist. I hope. I hope he's not the one who is like the big bad for the 30,000. Also, how? How? Like, he's just going to start the Dark Age in his like remaining 20 years of life and then allow someone else to continue it? Like, how is he going to be the darkness for 30,000 years of darkness? How? Is he going to be like him extracting his consciousness somehow and putting it in new bodies? I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know what his plan is, because he sounded so proud that he was the darkness that Seldon predicted. And then I'm there thinking, am I missing something? Because in this world, people still die. Like, they get old and they die. I mean, Gail has been alive for a few centuries because she was asleep for the majority of it. What is he going to do? Be asleep for like 99% of those 30,000. I don't understand how he expects to be the big darkness. Whatever. I'm sure it's going to be explained at some point. Also, I can't believe Dusk is the big bad. Like, ugh. Why does it have to be a man? I should have known that Beyta was going to be the mule, because this show has been, from what I understand, because I didn't read the books, but from what I understand, a lot of the female characters, the badass female characters, are like new to the show and were either male characters in the book or didn't exist at all. I should have expected this, honestly, because the mule in the book is a guy, right? But anyway, let's talk about it. I've already been recording for half an hour. This video is going to be huge if I keep just ranting about how furious and sad I am. Like, I don't think you guys understand this. Maybe you do, because you're here watching this. But I love like shows and movies and books and fictional stories. Like, I'm literally a writer trying to publish stories and write a novel. And it's just like, I feel it. I feel the shit. And not only I feel the fictional shit, I understand the correlates to real life, because that's the cool thing about great stories. They're not just telling us a story. They are telling us about ourselves and about our world, because everything is inspired by our reality. And the limits of imagination that exist in storytelling are just the limits of what we can imagine for our current world or what we have in our current world. And just seeing something like this in a time that we're living through, where like literally there are like, there's never been this much concern about World War III starting. And I'm still on the camp of people that thinks that's ridiculous. But I mean, you know, and there's like pieces of news coming out every day or all the time about the fact that democracy is at risk everywhere. And it's just, anyway, let's talk about Gail and the mule. I was not surprised that they didn't actually go to Trantor. I mean, it would be hard to fit that timeline in one episode. And I wasn't surprised that the real battle was happening inside their heads. I mean, I said this. Gail was too focused. Like, she was incredibly focused in the last episode. And when she had the opportunity to make the fight physical, she didn't, because she knew even then that the fight wouldn't be physical. And the signs were there from the last episode. So I like that. I enjoy that little bit of a surprise that wasn't truly completely unexpected, but it was still something that like kept us on our feet. I enjoy that. And we see the little, you know, Harry's mortal remains spooning the station where the mule is at. And I mean, as soon as we see Beyta opening the door, it's like, okay, but you know what? Me and my little innocent heart were still thinking, oh, maybe she is the baby. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, oh, she is the baby. This is why the door is opening, obviously, because she's the mule's sister and it opens with DNA or something, and that's why she can open the door, obviously. And then she encounters Preacher. I mean, the shenanigans are happening between Gail and the mule, and she encounters Preacher, and he says the mule is close. And even then I was thinking, oh, the mule is not controlling her because he hasn't been controlling her before. Like, they have seen each other many, many times, and he was just chill with her because she is his baby sister. So of course the mule is controlling Preacher, but not Beyta. the way that I was delusional till the very end, like even after Gail defeated the mule and she realized that there was someone else inside her head, and then she started feeling the pain of like the control trying to get in. And the camera panned to the historian, to Torin, and to Maggie. And even then, I was thinking, oh, which one of them is it? Which one of them is? Like at one point, I even thought, oh, is it Torin? Was it Torin all along? And then it panned, like her little feet come in. I was just like, ugh. And it was beyta. That was fun. That was really fun. Like, honestly, props to the show, because we were all expecting the evilness to come from the mule, right? We were expecting the biggest surprise and the biggest, like, shock and the biggest heartbreak to come from the mule. And then it didn't. Like, the mule reveal was fun. Honestly, it was fun. And the true heartbreak and the true shock and the true disgust came from Dusk. I was not exactly expecting this, and props to the show, because that was just a fun way to do it. Especially because the other part is so heartbreaking, and having this revelation be like this and seeing like a little bit of the strategy was put together, you know, outside of the screen. What do you call it? Whatever. We didn't see some of the strategy happening, and Gail was still working even though the cameras weren't recording, I guess. And then it comes together in the end. This was fun. This was a fun revelation. It was a fun resolution, and it was a good contrast to the heartbreaking other part of this episode. But even after the revelation that it is beyta, there are questions. There are many questions. This is a very different vibe to the mule we've known so far. And you kind of have to wonder why, don't you? Because first of all, why did she keep the shenanigans up with Dawn? Till the very last moment, she kept it up with Dawn. And she even tried to get Dawn up, even though she knew for a fact she wouldn't be able to get him up. Because she said before that she knew he was going to get legs, that the legs are going to be healed. How could she have known? How? Oh, because she's the one who's going to fucking heal them in the future. The signs are all there, and I didn't want to see it because I like beyta. Damn it. But then there's also the thing of Torin, because it doesn't really seem like Torin is affected or controlled by beyta. But then we have to remember that the person he loved most, as seen by Gail in her mind or in his mind, was beyta. So was he being controlled by beyta or not? Because the show kind of implies that Torin really, truly loves beyta and is surprised by the fact that she's the mule. And then she doesn't do to Torin what she did to Preacher and what she tried to do to Gail. She doesn't try to control him. She puts him to sleep. He could already have been under her control, but is he? I don't think that's what the show is trying to say. I think what they're trying to say is he's not under her control and he truly loves her. Well, what the fuck? Because then when she's revealed to be the mule and we get the little flashback of her being almost drowned as a child, and it is the correction that it was a girl, not a boy. And Gail says a thing, and she says this to the first mule. She doesn't say it to beyta, but I mean, it applies to beyta as well. And she says, I wrote it. This is why I'm looking down, because I'm going to read. You force people to love you, no matter how many worlds you conquer, no matter how many people you convert, you're still back there on the planet. Wondering why your parents love that baby more than you. And also, back in one of those episodes a while ago, beyta said, yeah, I was climbing. I was climbing my way to the top. I was climbing, and then I met Torin. And I stopped climbing, and I just hitched with him. And you kind of have to wonder, do they truly love each other? Like, is this just another manipulation from her, or is it real? And if it is real, and she found someone who loves her naturally without she having to compel them, how will this fit in the story? How will this fit into the plan? I am so confused. So confused. And also, like, the fact that she was a girl kind of changes things because, I mean, this has been a topic even in our world, you know, whenever parents can only have one kid, they often choose the male kid to keep. So I'm assuming the baby is supposed to be a guy, like a male baby, a baby boy. But it's still not revealed who it is. They still don't say who it is. And I mean, Beta's closeness with Maggie was about the instrument. It was about the fact that he worked for her, not for the mule we knew. So, who's the baby? Who's the baby? Where's the baby? And when is the baby going to come in? We have to suspect anyone with blue eyes. And speaking of Maggie, how did Gail turn him? Is that ever explained? Because I was looking at that and I was like, oh, cool. That's so cool. Gail, you go, you bad bitch. But then I was thinking, how? Like, did she find a way to go inside his head deep enough to rescue him from Beta's control? Or was she able to use Magnifico because Magnifico's love for Beta is different? I don't know how to explain this, but I'm assuming that the little hint towards the fact that it's Beta was the fact that Magnifico said he loved Beta and the mule, both of them. Why would I be? But like, how did Gail get through to Magnifico? Or did she just tamper with the instrument? And if she just tampered with the instrument, like how? How? I want answers. I want to understand. Also, if you are a big fan of the books and you know how, please let me know in the comments. Unless it's a big spoiler. If it's a big spoiler, no thank you. But I mean, they never show Beta being killed, so I'm assuming that Gail just defeated her and got her out of her head and then escaped. But now that Beta is left behind and she still wants to, I don't know, conquer the galaxy, who the fuck knows? And she has Magnifico because Gail didn't bring him with her. And she has Thorin and she has the story and she has everyone, basically. I'm assuming that she's going to use Dawn because there is still an empire left alive. It's not just Dusk. So, of course, Dawn is a competitor to inheriting Trantor and the Empire. So of course she's going to keep him and going to heal him and make him an ally and, I don't know, mentally control him, I guess. But anyway, the skydiving bad bitch escapes. I wrote that joke in my notes and I had to say it. The skydiving bad bitch. And she kind of hints, like she disappoints Harry. And she kind of hints to the idea that she's going back to the original planet of the Second Foundation. But like, the Second Foundation is not going to be there. I'm going to get to it in a minute. So how is she going to find them now? Because the whole thing of her leaving and not like knowing anything was for moments like this, for the possibility that the mule would get in her head, that she wouldn't be able to talk about it. But I mean, the mule now has Preacher. And so Preacher knows where that planet is. So if Gail is going back to the original planet of the Second Foundation, the mule is going to know, Beta is going to know where she is. So why is she going back there? Question number one. Question number two, how in the hell is she going to find the Second Foundation? Is she just going to deduce that it is at the library in Trantor? Anyway, I can't wait. But before we talk about the Second Foundation, I don't like what's happening with the First Foundation Harry, because Gail disappointed him and told him that the other Harry is dead. Harry seems pretty desperate for a body. You know, it gets to a point where I feel like it's going to get to a point where it's not gonna matter who rules the universe. It's not the galaxy. Sorry. It's not gonna matter if it's the bad guys or the good guys. It's not gonna matter what those people do to each other. As long as one of them can give him a body, he's gonna do everything for them. Isn't it what it's building here? Like, I hope not. I hope Harry remains loyal to the ideals of the Foundation, but I don't think he's going to. I think, like, we're going to see cycles of the message of you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the victim. Like, we're going to see cycles of this. Many people going through these goddamn cycles. And Harry's gonna be one of them because he's getting too desperate. He's getting too goddamn insane, trapped in that cocoon of his. And I can totally see him aligning with the first person that offers him a body. But second foundation, honestly, I appreciate the showrunners, the writers, whoever decides like what the last scene is going to be. I appreciate that person or people because this episode was so heartbreaking. And it was really nice to end on an hopeful note with the ambassador going to the library and joining the second foundation, and this confirmation that Demerzel did help them and did put them in the secret little places inside Trentor. And I mean, the beauty of it as well, because Trentor now is the center of what is supposedly going to be the beginning of the Dark Ages, with Dusk at the throne of the Empire, leading the entire goddamn galaxy into horror, apparently. And how beautiful that the second foundation, this thing that is supposed to guide the galaxy to peace and to light and to a better future, is literally inside like the crevices of the heart of the Empire, like a little cancer growing that is going to destroy it from within. Cannot wait. But yeah, I mean, all the pieces seem to be in the perfect place. Empire did fall. The mule was destroyed. I mean, not destroyed, but defeated, I guess, to the extent that it needed to be defeated. The second foundation continues, and what am I doing? And we get the confirmation that Gaal is probably a robot. I'm assuming that's what it is. I don't know if I read it wrong. And that there are other robots on the outskirts of, I'm calling it the outskirts of the universe, but that was clearly the moon. Did you hear me last review, saying that I wanted the second foundation to relocate to Earth? And now I'm assuming that's Earth. Is it? Am I wrong? I cannot believe that the robots are hiding in the moon. This is so cool. This is so cool. And what does she say? All the pieces are in place. So everything worked out well in the end. And what I'm wondering is, were they the survivors of the war, like Demerzel survived, or are they from the future? No, I don't think they're from the future. I think they are survivors. They survived the war and they've been, reconvening. And I mean, there are other structures on the moon. So I'm expecting there to be more, like a whole society of them. Because I mean, if one of them survived, Gaal, she could have created 100 more, right? Right? Because that's what Demerzel was going to do. Oh, I love this ending. I loved it. I was very heartbroken by the majority of the episode, but I enjoyed the surprise of the mule, even though the mule killed me. The surprise of the mule, even though it wasn't necessarily like a big surprise. Everyone was kind of already guessing it, but I love it. I love it. I love it when people are suspicious and they are trying to guess and they are thinking, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And then that's what it is, because it's just fun. Hate, loathe, completely detest those shows that plan for a specific surprise to be delivered at the end, and because the audience figures it out, they change it. Loathe those shows. Gossip Girl, I'm looking at you. My audience for this show has probably never seen one episode of Gossip Girl. I see the statistics, I know. But anyway, I enjoyed the episode. I was heartbroken and then I was hopeful at the end. And I enjoyed the little revelation of Gaal and the other robots. It was a great episode. I will probably rewatch the whole show and probably not say a thing about it. But anyway, you'll see me back here whenever season 4 is released. And in the meantime, watch all of my other reviews, because all the shows I watch are cool and good. Mostly. If they're not good, sometimes I hate review them. No, most of the shows that I review are pretty good. I watch a lot more that you don't see, and I just don't put them here if I'm not excited about them. tempest. But yeah, catch me here a few times a week reviewing some of my favorite shows and new shows that are coming out. And if you want extra reviews and also want to support me and support the work that I do here so I can make this an actual paying job, either join my membership or support me on Patreon. I have one extra weekly review. Maybe I'll add another one eventually. But for now, it's the Rainmaker season 1. So join me there or join me here. And I will see you eventually. Bye.